Hello and welcome. This video is for Wednesday, January 13th. If you were absent for English 10, so we knocked out two things today. The first thing that we did was English 10 using verbs. So we go ahead and open up this assignment. Verbs can be described as static or dynamic. Static verbs are forms of the to be and often use the passive voice is, are, am. Um, Dynamic verbs convey action and often use the active voice. They add interest to your right. Static verbs. Static verbs are be verbs that tell what happens. Example, Jim was excited about the letter from Kurt Vonnegut. Dynamic verbs. Dynamic verbs are action verbs that show what happens. Example, Jim whooped and waved the letter from Kurt Vonnegut. Direction. Read the following sentences, each with a static verb. Then choose a dynamic verb or two and build a new sentence that shows instead of tells. So Jim was glum when he was when there was mail. Jim usually moped when the mail slid through the slot. So you want to find linking verbs and make sure you are changing them. So on Tuesday, Jim was excited. Change that. Change was to something better. His brother was jealous about the letter. Jim was tough to put up sentences. So make sure that you are changing the was in these. The second part, verbs can also be general or specific. Some writers prop up general verbs by adding modifiers. Specific verb is always a better choice. So it says instead of writing these things, replace thing, or instead of writing angrily look, replace it with scowl. Instead of writing look with the Mason was shocked, replace it with gaped. Instead of looking at it until he looked, replace it with stared. Replace these general verbs and modifiers with specific words. Use online resources if you get stuck, like sources, synonym things. So quietly said. So what does the thing say? Besides quietly said. Whispered. Stepped on heavily. Crushed. Loudly spoke. Hollered. Eagerly took. Nabbed. That's the first time. Let's give you lots of answers. So if you watch this, better for you. The second part was, as usual, we have a story because we are rock and rolling on our stories. It's called English 10. This is The Panther, a bedtime story. Let me check out how long this is. On my own twisted amusement. Is it going to load all? You want to load all? What else? We're going to get started reading. The boy laid his bovine horse through the dwarf bush that grew at the top of the mountain. The gelding's damaged leg is hot with pain, and he held its head close to him by its rope halter. He put his face against its warm brown neck and made soft, comforting noises. There were no roads. The boy followed vague trails that wandered among the trees and petered out and picked up again further on. He wore a big brimmed hat that he constantly pushed back from his forehead so he could see. He had a belt full of heavy brass cartridges slung over his shoulder. The cartridges fit the rifle that rode in a leather scabbard on the gelding's offside wither, and they also fit the Colt revolver cinched against the boy's ribs under his jacket. He had lost the panther he was trailing in the morning of the day. The panther was an aged mountain cat, a hunter gone sheep stealer. Sheep stealer or sheep stealer? I don't know. The boy spent the afternoon looking for his way down off the mountain and didn't find it. Now it was evening and he was searching for a clear space to lay out his bedroll, some green foliage for the dwelling among the sticker bushes and stunted trees. He took a drink from his canteen, went and held it against the muzzle of the gelding. The horse nickered and stepped away from him, dancing on three good legs. The boy gripped the halter tight, reached over the gelding's neck, and unslung the rifle. He scanned the trees for the panther's form. The gelding sheltered itself away in a wide half circle, kicked at the brush, nipped the boy with its long yellow teeth. "Hold up there," the boy said, trying to calm the horse. "Hold up," he said again. An old woman stepped from the woods onto the narrow path and pushed past the struggling boy and horse. The gelding struck out at her. "I'm sorry," the boy said. He was trying to keep the gelding back from the old woman, and it was a hard job. The gelding was trying to climb right over him. The old woman backed off a couple of steps, watching the two of them for a second. She was dressed all in greasy leathers, and she carried a battered iron stew pot in her hand. "He's gone crazy," the boy said. "He never did anything like this before with me." The gelding was trying to climb right over him. "Stand by a minute," the boy called after her. "It is way down the mountain that you know of." The old woman vanished among the trees. The gelding stood shivering and blowing, still caught fast. It had torn its hide on the thorns as it fought, and the boy's hands were cut and bleeding. He worked to free it, rein, stirrups, man, tail, and every time the gelding shifted, the boy gashed himself again. "You," he said, and slapped his fist against the gelding's dusty barrel side. "You!" The gelding held his lame foot tenderly off the ground, flared his nostrils. The boy managed after a time to work the horse loose from the briars. He retrieved the rifle and set off down the path after the old woman. The gelding stumbled after him, stopping now and again to crop at the patches of thin yellow grass that grew along the edge of the path. When it was full dark under the trees, the boy spied a light off to his left. As he approached, he saw the old woman sitting at her campfire in a little clearing. Her hair was wild and glowed orange in the light. The stew pot sat in the hot ashes at the edge of the fire, and the boy smelled lamb and onions and potatoes and pepper. He licked his lips. The gelding started to shy, and the boy tied the reins to a branch when he was still a dozen yards out of the clearing. "Stand fast," he said to the gelding, and pushed its broad head against his middle. "Hey, Granny," said the old woman as he walked into the camp. "I'm sorry about the horse trying to bite you back there," he said. He held out his arm where a purple bruise was forming. "He got me worse than he did you," though the boy said. The old woman said to him, "You got no rifle with you, son?" "A man don't carry long arms into a stranger's camp," the boy said. "You got good manners," the old lady said. "Get you some meat." The boy took the stew pot from the fire and set to eating with a spoon and metal dish that he carried with him. The stew was hot and filling, and the lamb was cooked tender. The old woman rolled a cigarette and smoked and watched while he ate. "Thank'ee," the boy said when he was finished. "Live all alone up here, do you?" he said. "I'll show you a thing," the old woman said. "It's a thing nobody else has ever seen, and a thing you'll not see again. I'll show it to you 'cause you got good manners, 'cause you brought no rifle into my camp," she said. "Okay," the boy said. "Then you follow the path down the mountains," the old woman said. She pointed the way out to him. "You take it straight down the mountain, straight into the valley, and no more hunting the panther," she said, "'cause it ain't what you think it is, and it's the last one of them left." "Okay," the boy said. "And don't you touch that belly gun you got," the old woman said, and she smiled. "You ain't too polite." "That's my daddy's lamb there in the pod, ain't it?" the boy said. The old woman threw back her head, and her eyes rolled in their sockets. She fell to the ground and writhed in the dirt of the clearing floor, and her body shook its uncured leathers. The boy touched the revolver at his waist, but the field was foreign to the scene before him, and he dared not draw the gun. Something rose on the far side of the fire, and it wasn't the old woman there anymore, but the giant catamount. Its great head was blunt, its eyes dark as key slots. Its long, narrow body was covered with terrible scars. Some, the boy knew, he had inflicted in his family, and those that peopled the valley. Others were the clawwork of beasts. Still others he managed with the marks of the darts and spears of ancient savages. The panther circled the boy, and he thought how he would tell his children, perhaps his grandchildren, about the gray-yellow color that hide in the puckers and tucks in the flesh, and of the animal reek that suddenly hung in the air of the clearing. The panther leapt the fire, and the boy blinked in fear as it stood over him. He could feel its breath on him and hear the beat of the weary heart. Then it leapt again, and though he strove to watch, he did not know if the cat rushed along the ground, or hurled into the boughs of the tree, or even sped upward and outward, and vanished into the clear night sky. Answer the following questions using complete sentences, except for these. The boy had lost the panther he'd been trailing. True or false? The boy cannot find his way down the mountain. True or false? The boy is not surprised, but is not surprised the horse struck out at the old woman. True or false? The old woman's wearing a tattered cotton dress. True or false? The boy carries his rifle into the old woman's camp. How the boy's action and speech show that he is considered by others. How are his good manners important to the story? Atmosphere is the overall mood, etc., etc. Down here, using internet resources to find the following vocabulary words in your own terms. So I don't want copy and paste here. I want you to use what words you have and put them into words of your own. That's what we rock and rolled for today. If you have any questions, let me know. Mr. McDonald out.